So, welcome to the podcast, Stephen and Stu from the Up to the Line Pipe Band podcast. Hang on, I have to get this right. The premier educational-based podcast. Am I right in saying that?
The one, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's Steve's line, not mine.
So, how are you, lads? First of all, I haven't spoken to you in a long time. Are you keeping well?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having us.
No problem at all.
Yeah, about as well as can be expected. We're slowly creeping out of lockdown, hopefully.
With a bit of luck. Stu, I have to say, you're wearing some of the new merch. So Stephen as well. Oh, and look at Stephen having the Up to the Line mug as well. If you're watching the video, that's brilliant. So you guys have a new line of merch then. Stu, start with yourself. Do you want to tell us a bit about this new merch and stuff?
It's kind of been in the pipeline for a wee while. And the mugs kind of kicked us off with having folk on the show and just try to get the emblem and the name out there. And Gary's taking it to the next level now, and we've got the hoodies and the polo shirts, green and blue, both cracking colours actually.
Have to say, yeah, I agree. So, Stephen, do you want to show us the wee logo and stuff on your sleeve?
Sure.
And that?
So we've got so there you go, Up to the Line Pipe Band podcast. If anyone can see that there,
you see it on the video.
Also,
yeah,
as sponsored by Acklety Baby Bagpipe Specialists.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with
bagpipespecialists.com.
So that's what I was going to ask them. Where can folks go and get this new merch? First of all, yeah.
Well, we've got a shop via our Facebook page at the moment. We do have a new website coming, which is currently under construction, which isn't available yet, but you can go to the Facebook page, which I believe links you through to the Bagpipe Specialists page, right. And that's how you buy. So we've got hoodies, polo shirts, 2 colours available. The mugs are also available to buy, I think. So shameless
awesome
plug,
stuff.
Get on and have a look, get yourself some podcast merch.
Definitely. Now, I have brought you onto the Rab Show for a reason, not just to plug your merchandise, but I kind of want to pick your brains about the podcast in general. You guys recently brought John Dew onto the team. So I don't know, Stephen or Stu, do you want to tell us what John kind of brings to the table now he's part of your team?
Well, I've known John for a wee while now. You know, we've always been pals just through the through the pipe band scene, and John was a great help. Well, then we got, obviously he won our. We're coming up for a year now. Just Gary informed us this one. It's been about a year since we launched our online solo contest. So John obviously was our overall winner for that. And then he was also one of and through that led to him being invited on to be one of the recital performers for our Christmas recital we did there. So just through that, and then afterwards just chatting to John a little bit, and he was bouncing some ideas off us about, how we can improve both the solo contest and the recital format. And just through that, it led to a conversation about, how would you feel about joining the team and helping us out? Now that you're no longer a competitor for any of our contests, Of course that limits him from entering, well, no, I suppose you can enter if you wanted. I don't think we've made a hard and fast rule about that. But he is just a great resource for that side of things. And he's also just super keen, So he has taken a lot of the reins with some of our Patreon stuff. Yes. So he does, for anyone who doesn't know, on our Patreon, John does a performance of a tune of the week. So he'll pick a contemporary piece of music from a book that is available to buy from bagpipespecialists.com. And a couple of times a month, he does a lesson, a 10-minute lesson. So I believe he's been focusing on some funny time signatures recently.
Yes, he has. And I was going to ask you about the Patreon content going forward. Stu, for yourself, mate, obviously with the Patreon stuff and all the rest and John being involved, I kind of get a feeling you have a bit of a hand in there as well for the Patreon stuff, because there's some TikTok content and that bleeding its way over into Patreon as well. How have you found the work over there?
It was basically with Patreon, we're just trying to find our feet with it, offer something that was a little bit different. I think, like Steve says, since John coming on, he's kind of taken a lot of that now, and it's a really good setup that he's got going on there, plus the discounts from Bagpipe Specialists as well. So you do get a bit of bang for your buck now when you're a supporter via Patreon. And I've taken the TikTok. We are up.to.the.line. Or something like that.
There's no dot at the end.
Is there no dot at the end?
Yeah, honestly, if anyone listened to the latest episode that just came out yesterday for Up to the Line, which was Friday, the 2nd of April, as we record this, I mean, you hear me tripping over the TikTok name. I had to write it down and read it about 3 times to make sure it was right.
That's it. But you can do what I did. I just searched for Up to the Line and bing, up a come, rather than trying to put on all your dots, because I got confused myself too. So, but no, honestly, I think the content that you folks have over there on Patreon, especially with the introduction of John, has really added a new element to it with his, introductions to weird time signatures. For me now, I've been like 9/8 and 6/8 are the hardest I've ever looked at for time signatures, but John's going into all sorts of madness over there. So, yeah, I think John really adds something that's really quite unique. Do you think we'll have more of John featuring on future episodes?
Yeah, I mean, John, he's recently been helping us out with a few of the recent interviews as well, and it's just a good extra dynamic, because I'm not going to lie, we're on the team before we introduced all the young guys, me and Stuart were kind of knocking on in years. Me speaking as the elder statesman of the team, So it's really good. I mean, and Stuart, it's almost like Stuart is a previous graduate of, what was the RSAMD, whereas John is also a more recent graduate of the now RCS. So we've got an episode in the pipeline of all, and Cameron is also at the RCS. So we've got an episode all about that in the pipeline coming up.
Nice.
So it's good, and obviously just with him being, he's a recent, contemporary composer. He's got a book out. He's solo medals coming out of his ears. A world championship pipe band member of. So he's an excellent resource to tap into.
For sure.
And as I've said, just super keen to be involved and take on wee projects.
That's it. He knows his onions for sure, and with his work on Patreon, man, it's been brilliant. Yeah, no, for sure. So, well, if anything, I'm going to kind of plug your Patreon for you. All right, I'm going to do it blatantly. This might seem like one big advert for another podcast, but I don't care, because you guys, you've been knocking it out of the park this last while. I've been a huge fan, and I'm also a supporter on Patreon. And I kind of want to tell folks, the stuff that's back there on Patreon, you guys don't talk about it enough. You're offering a serious amount of stuff to your Patreon audience, but you don't talk about it.
That's something we're trying to rectify.
Yeah. We've obviously come from the Grace Note Vortex side of things, where we released sort of one episode every 2 or 3 years, and then we weren't
episode 9 coming soon.
We weren't regular enough with Up to the Line, and bringing the new guys in as well has taken some of the burden off of our shoulders a wee bit, and made it so that we'll all have our own little role within the team now. Makes things a lot easier to be a bit more regular with our content. So now that we've got that sorted, we'll start thinking about plugging our TikTok and our merch and our Patreon, and we might actually come up with a proper regular script.
That's it. A bit of a plan then. Well, that's kind of brings me on to my next question then. What does the future hold for you guys now for the rest of 2021? Stephen, you were saying that you had future episodes planned already. Have we got more good stuff coming from you guys? You want to give us a little sneak peek?
100%. I don't want to give away the farm, but as I've said, we've got this episode all about the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland and I'm assuming. I mean, Stuart will probably tell you more about that. What it was like, what it is like, the evolution of the the piping degree and the trad music degree, and we've got more interviews coming up with some excellent guys involved in pipe bands who are also excellent trad soloists and in bands. We've got quite a prolific RSPBA judge and previous pipe major or world championship, multiple world championship winning pipe band coming up in the works. Don't want to say too much about that. Be good to get their insight onto a few things. And yeah, we're just pushing the whole education angle, anything educational that we can get our hands on to promote to people, anything that's of quality educational content that we can promote to help everyone improve. Just while we were talking about the Patreon there, Rab, it was also having a sponsor in bagpipespecialists.com and Gary Nimmo. That helps us give something more to offer. The Patreons, not just I can just run through what's available for folk, if that's okay. We're talking about blatant plugs here.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so off the top, we've got 2 tiers of membership. So depending on what tier you join, you can either get a 5% or 10% discount at both bagpipespecialists.com and emilycraighighlandwear.com, both companies of Actively Bagpipe Specialists. And Emily Craig Highlandwear, which we haven't really pushed much on the show, they cover all aspects of Highlandwear, from your number ones to your Glengarrys to your brogues to gifts. They've got a smashing set of whiskey glasses available just now at Emily Craig Highlandwear. So check those guys out. And I believe that those discount codes get you a discount on just about everything. As I've said, we've spoken about the content John Dew can offer, just a tune a week and 10-minute lessons. All the previous interviews, all the previous performances from the online recital from Ross Miller, Enora Maurice, John Dew, who have I missed there? And Scott Wallace. All their 20-minute recitals are all available exclusively on the Patreon. There's going to be blooper reels. People get look out for that. People get early access to the episodes before they come out for general release. I was
going to say that's my favorite one right there. Is that you get the episode like a week or maybe in some cases 2 weeks earlier than the rest.
Sometimes, yeah.
And then I'm like messaging people, "Oh, did you hear the pod this week?" And they're like, "Nah, it's not out yet, Rob. What are you talking about?" And I said,
get on the Patreon, man.
See,
and I think there's a discount code for Rhythm Monster still available. I'm unsure about if that even still works. It's been a while since I've spoken to Michael Eagle to confirm that. But folk can try it. If it works, great. If not, there's plenty of other stuff on there that people can get out of it.
I need to ask then. Big question was, for the longest time, we've kind of been concentrating solely on education in the piping scene when it comes to competitive piping and playing on pipe bands and such. But you did mention there about dipping the toes into the trad world and stuff. There's also been a kind of like dipping of the toes into the Breton scene as well. Do you guys see the podcast looking at other areas of the piping world rather than just competitive piping and drumming?
Yeah, when we started, obviously, we're all knee deep in, the pipe band world. It's where we've kind of cut our teeth. But Stuart has quite a good solo pedigree behind him. As does Gary's got a great pipe band pedigree. I've had the odd success myself. Stuart also plays guitar and whistle. I'm currently learning whistle, and I'm trying to improve my guitar playing. Other guys in the team are multi-instrumentalists. I know Big Scott used to play the kit drum. Cameron plays. What did he say he played? Was it the djembe? He told me he played.
I think if he goes to the conservatoire, he'll play the djembe. That's a favourite to stick in a group work arrangement.
There you go. Yeah.
And we're all big fans of of trad music and other world music as well. So there's no limit to what we want to cover. So yeah, the evolution of coming out of the pipe band shadow was always something that we wanted to do, and it's always kind of why we've kind of steered clear of just reporting the news and what's happening, solely in the pipe band world. You've got that covered, Rab, 100%, and as does and the Chanter Rant guys as well. They cover topics, social topics in their own special way.
No comment.
Yeah. So honestly, I think, the future's bright for your podcast. And I know we've spent this long plugging everything, but seriously, folks, if you haven't listened to the Up to the Line pod yet, you're really missing a trick. Let's face it. You guys, absolutely fantastic. Keep up the great work. I'm a huge fan, and we'll, continue to plug you as best I can. Now, I have to ask you a whole bunch of questions that have absolutely nothing to do with piping, drumming, podcasting, any of that nonsense. Now, we kind of ask the usual rap show questions. What's your favorite cheese? Pineapple on pizza. Have you ever driven a tractor? Stuff like that. But we had a bit of a gather together on the Chanterad podcast with all of the podcasting people. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Me too. And I think one of the things that came out of that conversation was that pipe band folk are massive nerds. Like, we nerd out big time on sci-fi and comics and stuff. So I've got a whole bunch of questions that I'm going to take it in turn, asking both of you. You can kind of give me your answers to a whole bunch of nerdy questions. Totally non-piping related.
Absolutely. I mean, I think outside of piping and drumming, whenever I speak to Stuart about anything generally, it's about what's happening, in Nerdville.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Stu, I'm going to start with yourself, mate. Biggest question you can ever ask any nerd ever: Marvel or DC?
Right. Me and Steve were talking about this the other day. I'm going to give a flat answer of Marvel.
Ooh, that's bold.
Now, that comes with sort of conditions. I like it. Depends on my mood. I would say in general Marvel, but I like the darker DC stuff. I like Steve and I were saying, like, we're both fans of Suicide Squad, which is not a massive film.
No.
And but we're fans of the darker stuff as well.
There you go. Stephen, same to yourself, mate. Where do you fall?
Very much on the fence. No, when I was younger, growing up, and I was first sort of into comics and superheroes, I grew up on Batman. There was Batman the animated series.
Yeah.
I have memories of watching, the old 60s reruns of Batman at my grand's house. But as I grew up, started to get more into Spider-Man and the Marvel side of things. Was a huge fan of the Iron Man cartoons and comics growing up.
Those?
So
wow.
When the Iron Man film first came out, I was so excited, but so many of my friends had never heard of Iron Man, and I couldn't really understand why.
Yeah.
But I'm also so I'm a fan of both in terms of, you see, even the movies. Like, I really like anything superhero based. So like Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds.
What,
I quite
you
enjoy
like that movie.
I've got a soft spot for it. Yes, it's got its flaws. Absolutely. The same with Suicide Squad, and the same with, I like Man of Steel. I like Batman versus Superman. The recent Zack Snyder Justice League cut is just phenomenal. It really is. And I really hope I'm a big fan of Restore the Snyderverse. Outside of piping and drumming, again, all I really watch on YouTube is nerd and geek theories, and I love, from a personal thing, I love the background stories to films and how they were made, especially if a film's gone through a lot of trouble to be made, like the Suicide Squad, like Justice League. So in terms of like behind the scenes and the stories behind that, and theory breakdowns, love it. Absolutely love it.
That sounds up my street for sure. Yeah, there you go. All right, lads, I'm not going to ask you any like incredibly nerdy Star Wars questions because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, but can you tell me then, starting with Stephen, who's your favorite Disney villain?
Disney villain.
That's a tough one.
Oh, how much time have you got, Rab?
It's a great question though, because you could be answering it now and then 10 minutes later you'll change it.
It'll change, yeah, definitely. Off the top of my head, if I'm going classic Disney, it's Shere Khan from Jungle Book, purely because there's a line at the end where they're all trying to save Mowgli, and I think it's one of the funniest lines, hands down, in any Disney film. And it's when Baloo's got his tail and Shere Khan's trying to grab him, and they're running around in circles. Yeah. And I think it's Bagheera shouting to him, "Let go of the tail, let go of the tail," and Baloo shouts, "Are you kidding? There's teeth in the other end." And it has me in stitches every time.
Oh man, Stu, what about you?
Scar.
Had to be Scar.
Of course. If you know me well enough, you'll know I have a big Mufasa tattooed on my arm, and Lion King is one of my favourites. So Scar is up there. I also think Gaston is pretty hilarious as well.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Little bit of left field there. So yeah, I like the other one I was thinking of that it's just it's cool, but not probably not a villain as such, because comes good in the end is Ka from Moana.
Oh,
because that's
okay.
there you
I
go.
like
Good choice.
I like that. That's a very cool kind of villain thing. But obviously, once the heart's restored, it's all back to
That's
chilling.
it. It's all very Disney. There you
And
go.
I have to say, seeing as how we're talking about Disney, Darth Vader, the ultimate. Just now he's owned by Disney.
Yeah.
He's his own Disney villain.
Yeah.
Well, he's
even
there. You
though
can meet him.
big
You can meet him
redemption
in the
arc.
parks. You can meet him in the parks, so he counts.
There you go. That's it indeed. Okay. Now that we're talking movies, favorite villains, all that kind of stuff, can I ask you then about your guilty pleasures, especially in the music world? I'll start with Stu. Have you got any music that you would say has been your guilty pleasure that you really enjoy listening to?
Do you know what? It's probably better that Steve answers for me on this one. The amount of times that I kind of I message him and say, "Dude, have you heard this?" And he's like,
What are you talking about?
"Yeah, I am a huge country music fan.
Right.
Absolutely massive country music fan. So we went to Dublin recently, me and my wife, to see Brad Paisley.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I so it's kind of pop country that I'm really into, but I like pretty much everything from that genre. So I suppose most people, when you tell them you're into country, they're really,
yeah. I've never seen you with a cowboy hat or that on, man.
the
there
boots
are
and
photos.
everything.
there are
photos.
Yeah. me and my wife are we'll like to try and get a couple of times a year through to Glasgow to the Grand Ole Opry for a night.
Brilliant. There you go.
That's class. That's hilarious.
Sounds like a night's crack for sure. Stephen, what about you, mate? Are you the country fan, or have you any other?
Actually, yeah, and it was Stuart who got me into modern country music, if you like, and I can't get enough of it.
Right.
Outside of that, I have to say one of my ultimate guilty pleasures, and I'm not ashamed to say it, ABBA. And leading on to that, anything from Eurovision, I am a huge Eurovision fan, and I love all the quirky European pop that comes out, of the continent. It's great, especially if anyone's not seen it. The Will Ferrell film Fire Saga,
Oh,
a
that's
Eurovision
amazing.
story,
yeah.
is hilarious.
Oh,
And
that's so good.
the songs that the Fire Saga perform, along with Ya Ya Ding Dong, on repeat in our house. My fiance, she loves it as much as I do. It's in fact the Valentine's card I got her this year was "You are the Ya Ya to my Ding Dong."
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, for sure. That's brilliant. So then moving on to guilty pleasures in TV and movies then. Is there any one that you could say is your go-to guilty pleasure that if anyone heard that you binge watch or sit down and watch all the time, would you be embarrassed? Any TV shows?
I'm trying.
I try and watch a lot of anime. As grown up as a kid, I read a lot of manga, watched a lot of anime. Not really into a lot of the sort of modern stuff. Like mid to late 90s was my kind of era for that. So I mean, a lot of people kind of look down on, and I do. I watch a lot of cartoons. I do. In fact, one of my favorite movies to this day is the original 1986 Transformers animated movie, which has the best 80s hair metal soundtrack.
Oh,
and I will argue anyone to the death.
That's unbelievable.
Stan Bush, you got in touch. Yeah, absolutely. So probably, the fact I watch a lot of cartoons still. I'm about to turn 37 tomorrow, so as a nearly 40-year-old man watching cartoons.
Thanks for reminding me.
So, what about yourself, Stu? Do you have any guilty pleasures in the telly department?
I don't know. I think I mean, if I run through like everything I like, I don't know if I see a lot of them as guilty pleasures, because I mean I'm a binge watcher of like say Back to the Future. I like my comedies. I like Scrubs, and Cougar Town is one of my favourites. I just watch on repeat all the time. I know a lot of people don't like Big Bang Theory, and that's one of my favourites. I think probably if I had a guilty pleasure, it would probably have to. I haven't watched it for a while, but going back, I used to. Me and the wife watched the full seasons of Pretty Little Liars, which I really enjoyed.
Wow. I thought you were going to say like Love Island or something like that. I was going, what?
I can't do it.
Actually, now you've mentioned Love Island. I watched probably the most recent series of Love Island.
Mm-hmm.
I generally I hate reality television with a passion. However,
yeah.
lockdown, Coralie, my fiance, she'd never watched it before. We wanted to sit and watch it, so I ended up in. I was sitting on my iPad with that on in the background. But it's amazing how you get involved. There's no storyline, but you get involved, and you care ever so slightly about what happens to these vapid people.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to leave you another couple of questions then, and then that's pretty much us for the geekdom. But can you tell me what is your favorite Batman movie? Now I'm talking about all of them, right the way back from the originals all the way through the modern day. I'll start with Stu.
I knew you would.
Gives me time to think.
Batman film. Yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, and do you know, I don't think I've got one that I don't like. I genuinely don't. But I think if I'm being really honest, I think it would have to be Begins.
Yes, of course.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I like the Dark Knight. I like the Dark Knight Rises in that series, but I do like the sort of beginning stories, and I think that was nicely done. That one put a lot more into it than previous attempts.
That was pretty good. That was done really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen, what about you, mate? You have to pick one.
Got to pick one. It's like, I don't have children, but I imagine it's like picking a favourite child.
That's easy. That's really easy. It's the one that's making the least noise at the time.
Aye.
I've got a real soft spot for Batman Forever. It's not my favourite, but I've got a real the Val Kilmer Batman, because that was one I remember loving growing up as a kid.
Is that the one with the nipples?
No, that was George Clooney. That was Batman
Clooney.
Forever.
Oh,
that was Batman Forever. Yeah,
I'm getting mixed up.
Clooney gets a lot of hate for that film. Sad. Most of it's deserved. And the same with Batman Returns. The Tim Burton's second one.
Yes.
But my favourite, I think, has to be The Dark Knight. With it's just as a progression on from Batman Begins, which is also fantastic. Evolving the story. Out of the three, that's my favourite by a margin.
There you go, fantastic stuff. Now, lads, I'm going to let you relax now. That was a grilling, and then some. But before I let you go, then can I just ask you then, what is the near future holding for you guys at the Up to the Line pod? I know we've seen your release actually for what's happening in the rest of April. Do you want to tell folks what's happening in the podcast over April?
Yeah, so our main interview this month is with the teaching team from Robert Malcolm Memorial. So we've got Zephan Nicol, Jack Lee and Andrew Lee talking all about how they approach teaching, the industrial machine that is Robert Malcolm Memorial and leading into Simon Fraser University, and how it's endured for so long. That's a good one. Don't miss that. And then halfway through the month, we've got an interview with Matt Wilson and all about his experience teaching with Dollar Academy, and how they've coped through the COVID times and the pandemic, and all the trials and tribulations they've had try to continue on trying to kids' education, through these strange times that we're living in. And of course, on the Patreon, John Dew is doing his projects of a tune a week and 10-minute lessons. The last couple of episodes we've had, if folk want to go back and listen, Stuart caught up with Zephan Nicol. He seems to be he's been a popular guy the last few episodes.
Yep.
And Dr. Steph Burns, again, talking about mostly sort of performance anxiety and what's coming up in Steph's new book, and also how Zephan applies her teachings, her books to his program. And then the future, we're looking at another form of online solo contests. We're looking at another online recital. yeah, there's lots of good stuff in the pipeline coming up. So like, subscribe, don't miss out.
Do all that usual stuff. You kind of preempted me there, Stephen, because I was going to ask Stu, have you got any plans then, Stu, for another competition? The last one you ran last year was huge, and so many folks got involved. It was brilliant, and also your online recital after that again was epic. You know, have you guys got any plans for things like that running forward into 2021?
It's at the discussion stage at the moment. It's definitely not out the question. I've got 3 competitions this month and next month that I'm doing recordings for. So it's becoming a much bigger thing. You know, I think there's more and more starting to come out. So I think with the success we had last year, I think it's more likely to happen than not, but it's not confirmed. Watch this space.
Watch this space indeed. So, Stephen, Stu, thank you all so much for joining us here in the Rab Show this week. And I know it sounds like one big advert, but seriously, if you haven't listened to the Up to the Line pod, you're seriously missing a trick for sure. Lads, thanks for chatting to us. We hope to have you back on another future show. And yeah, best of luck to you there in the Up to the Line pod. Keep it up.
Brilliant, Rab. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us, mate. Cheers.